Hi, this is Colleen with Chats with Colleen. We're so glad that you're here joining us for our biweekly podcast edition. This week's episode is with Kaley Mounts. This is her second time joining us. The first time she joined us, she was still in her education, getting her master's in social work. And now she's in her career working. She's working with at-risk youth and young adults who are suffering with mental health challenges. So the story she's going to share with us is really enlightening. It's really inspiring, and the work she's doing at her young age is something to really be in awe of. So honored that she joined me again. I'm so honored that my son introduced me to her because I feel like having somebody like this in his life is great for him as any resource, but also for me that I know her, that I know that she's doing this and helps us to really understand mental health. And with the recent suicide of that Dallas Cowboys player, it's really heartbreaking, but it just shows the gravity of this topic that is so still un like not talked about. It's just misunderstood by so many people. And so many people are dealing with mental health challenges. Even just feeling sad for a long period of time could lead into a spiral. So we really need to be observant of other people and helpful. So I really hope you listen to this episode. I really hope you enjoy it. And I really hope that it helps you in case of your needs or other people around you. Also, remember to like and share and to subscribe to our podcast. It not only helps us, but it helps our people that come to join us because it's really what the podcast is about. It's about people that take the time to come talk with us and chat with us. So we really appreciate you. If you would like to join us and be on an episode, please reach out. Again, thank you so much and enjoy this. Hi, this is Colleen with Chats with Colleen, and today I'm back with Kaley, and we are going to talk about her success after she graduated with her master's degree in the past year, I think, year and a half.
May of 24, I graduated.
Okay, so we're right on time. So I know this is probably a generic question, but I'm still going to ask you, what inspired you to become a social worker?
I think last year I also said the same thing. I really didn't have a lot of people in social work will say, I've had a situation myself, or I have a friend that has had a situation. I can't say that. I really just had somebody come to UCF and speak to us when we were in our bachelor's program, and I thought I wanted to be a teacher. That won't happen. And it was actually a protective investigator with child welfare who said that they were looking to teach people like what it is about child welfare and how that can be in social work. And that's kind of where I went from there. I don't really have a story. I really wish I did. A lot of people have stories with friends that have been adopted or had their own personal ones, but I unfortunately don't.
So that's okay. So that's the right career that you're to call your profession as a social worker?
Yes, social work.
Okay. And then what are you actually doing right now in social work?
So currently when I graduated with my master's in May of last year, I got a job at Advent Health's Baker Act unit for adults.
Oh, wow.
So I was a unit therapist there. And currently I am with a different company now as full-time. I'm not going to say the name of it just because I can't. But basically I am crisis counselor. So mobile response team. It's kind of like, to me, I call it the 911 for mental health for kids. Which is the population that I've always wanted to work with.
Adults would be hard.
I think adults are hard. Yeah, adults are hard because there's a lot more, and I don't want to say there's a lot more things that I can't help with, but there's a lot more. Their brains are developed. They're done learning things. They're not really wanting to change their lives that much unless something bad really happens or they have that support. And a lot of adults don't have that support, unfortunately. So with kids, I find it, while yes, I'm a lot of the times telling parents what they need to be doing to help their kids, which is a hard battle, but they have more support than some adults do. So I just like the kids better.
I think they're more innocent, and a lot of times the stuff that happened to them probably isn't their fault.
It's half the time not their fault.
Or most of the time, because
they don't know.
Correct. Exactly.
And then when you say Baker Act, could you just give us a generic explanation of what that is?
So Baker Act, every state has a different name for it, but a Baker Act in Florida is a mental health hospitalization. So if law enforcement comes in contact with you, or myself at my profession comes in contact with you, and we decide that you are a danger to yourself or others, then you will most likely be put under a Baker Act, which is up to 72 hours legally, but it can be under 24 hours. Basically, you get an immediate psychiatric evaluation within the first 12 to 24 hours that you're there, and you see a psychiatrist at least every 24 hours. So a Baker Act can allow you to get updated on medications. If you're on a mental health medication that's not working, a psychiatrist can change it while you're there. It's kind of a way to get into a doctor much quicker than a regular doctor. You know, a family doctor, you might see them every 6 months. Your meds might not work after 6 weeks and make it worse, or a lot of psychiatric meds cause suicidal ideations too. So going back and forth with either harm to yourself or others, psychosis, which is a really big thing with individuals with schizophrenia. And unfortunately, a lot of drugs do cause, and especially these days with a lot of things being laced, a lot of things can put you into psychosis, like synthetic marijuana. Something as small as marijuana can put you into severe psychosis. And a lot of people get Baker Acted because of that, because you are mistaken for having a mental health crisis at that moment.
Oh, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not an easy, it's not something that you want to be Baker Acted unless you really need to, because unfortunately your rights are being taken away. You're in a locked unit. You cannot leave the hospital against medical advice. You cannot get out unless you sign a right to release form, which still takes the psychiatrist up to 24 hours to decide if you are safe to even leave at all. And if you're not, we initiate what's called a 32, which is you get a healthcare proxy, someone that makes the decisions for you because you're refusing treatment and you need it. So my current job
goes on their record, I would assume.
So it goes on their record, but it's not something that can be pulled. So for instance, if I was going to go be in law enforcement, they would be able to see it on my record because they can see certain types of records. But if it's, you know, a job at a car dealership or a regular clerical job or anything like that, they can't get that level of background check to see that deep into you. You know, if you're working with kids, that's also another thing that type of stuff comes up. Yeah,
they wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's something that it needs to be worked on. So my current job, my full-time job right now, is the purpose of that program is to avoid Baker Acts because there's so many people that get Baker Acted that don't need to be. And it's not an easy process. Like, your rights are being taken away. That's not cool, right? That's not something we want to do to people. So the purpose of my job is to go out and be a crisis counselor. Sometimes someone just needs to talk to somebody. Like, sometimes they just need somebody besides their family or their friends, an outside source that can really help them deal with that moment and then go from there. So it's cool working in both sides. You know, I can see what happens on the units, so I understand firsthand that what needs to be Baker Acted and what doesn't. So
what does your typical day look like in a work day?
So if I'm at the Baker Act unit, we're doing biopsychosocial assessments, which is like front to back, tell me about your life, why you're here, and really doing in-depth suicidal ideation assessments. At my full-time job, if we get it, so it's like 911. So if we get a call, right, the summer's really slow because a lot of the times our school personnel, school resource officers, teachers, counselors at schools are calling because kids are oftentimes sharing what's going on and how they're feeling at school, not at home. We do have a lot of parents that call once they know what it is and what 211 is. So my job is you call 211 United Way, which that's Florida statewide. I don't know if it's other states or not, if they have a different number. But you can call 211 and say you have a mental health crisis going on. You can call 988, which is also the National Suicide Hotline, and text or call them. And if they determine that you need to speak to somebody in person, they can contact us too. So if a call comes in, we have 60 minutes to get from our home to that location, because we cover Orange, Osceola, and Seminole. So if I'm in Apopka and I got to get to Osceola, it's going to take me a while to get there. So we can offer telehealth, which is helpful for people who don't want to wait. A lot of we go up to age 24, and a lot of individuals in their 20s will be like, yeah, let's hop on Zoom. They're used to it from COVID. They think it's fine. I like in person better because I can sit in front of you and actually see your atmosphere, your environment, the people around you, what's going on, where you live a lot of times. So it really, when we get a case, we have 60 minutes to respond. We go out and do 2 assessments to decide whether or not an individual needs to be Baker acted or not. And if they don't, we make a safety plan. And if they don't have mental health services, then I'm connecting them to those services. And I can be their counselor for up to 5 to 6 weeks until I can get them an ongoing counselor. So it's really hit or miss. We are 24 hours, 365. So we are on call all night, all day, every holiday. It doesn't end.
So I was going to ask, are you on call?
Yeah. So like this, and then we work 1 weekend a month. But when you work a weekend, it's a 12-hour shift. So it really just depends on what shift you are. It just rotates. So
okay.
The shift is not for the week. It's definitely, you'll be on call overnight for a week. You'll work a weekend. You'll be on call 8 to 4 for 2 weeks, and then an evening shift. So your schedule is never the same.
It varies.
So yeah, which I love. A lot of people don't like that, but I can't stand a 9 to 5. So,
So if you're on call, are you in the facility or are you at your house?
No. So the good thing about my job is that I'm from home.
Remote.
So
Okay.
everything is remote unless you go to a case or if you need to follow up in person. So unfortunately, if I do have to Baker Act an individual, I try really hard to get a release of information from that client or that parent that says I can go see them at the Baker Act unit the next day. Kind of see how they're doing, how they're feeling, what's going on. A lot of the times they don't want to talk to you, which is fine because I'm the one that initiated the Baker Act, right? And they're upset. But if not, then I'll go in person. It kind of depends on the severity of the case and what the family wants. So I do have to have consent from parents at all times to do anything. Even if they're in a crisis, the parents said, I don't want you to talk to my kid. I can't talk to your kid, and even if a kid doesn't want to talk to me, but parent wants me to talk to them, then I'm not going to force a kid to do that. Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest challenge working with your clients?
With the youth, like I had said before, working in the Baker Act unit with adults is I'm working with an adult one-on-one. Like I'm talking to you about your life and what's going on. When I'm talking to a kid and I'm asking a kid to make changes, sometimes they can't make those changes. It's dependent on where they live, what they have access to. If they live with grandparents, they would live with parents, if they're in foster home, all those different things. So we respond to any and everything. Whether you're in a homeless, I've responded to homeless shelters too. So it just depends on what's going on. I think for me, the hardest part with the kids is I can't always change what needs to be changed for them. I can't, and they can't either sometimes. Adults have more of a ability to go out and say, I'm not going to do this today, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this for myself. But kids sometimes don't have that ability, especially young kids.
Younger, yeah.
Yeah. Teenagers, they can do they can stand up for themselves in some ways, and I can talk to parents. I think the hardest part sometimes is educating the parents on mental health. It wasn't a big thing until maybe a couple of years ago, right? Mental health is huge now. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, like my mom doesn't understand mental health that much, right? But the generations now, like when I become a mom, I'm going to understand, granted, without my job, right? It's just a big thing that's happening. So, educating these parents on what it actually looks like and how to respond to something like that to not continue to trigger your child is really hard. So I think a lot of the times I'm working with the parents on how to help them and deal with it. Because every person responds differently to everything.
Right. And I was telling somebody else that I feel like everybody, like all the kids now, they all have anxiety. They all have depression. And I was like, I don't know if I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, so I don't know, but I just look at stuff and I think it's like a lot of it's related to like social media, the media, COVID, just the way the world is and the country is right now.
I think that a lot of it has to do with social media because even like when I was growing up, social media was big starting at the middle of high school, maybe middle to end of high school. And it was still horrible then. And it's just gotten worse. And a lot of the times we do get a lot of kids that post-suicidal ideations online. And that's where we get our calls from, because a friend saw it and got scared and told the teacher or whatever it is. And so it's a lot of stuff that, you know, people will write things in the comments and not think that that's going to go somewhere. And so I think social media is a huge deal. And of course, everything else, yes, it's going on in the world that doesn't help individuals that do have mental health. You know, the resources are dwindling in every way, shape, or form for my clients that I work with mainly. So it's a really hard time, but I'm glad that there are some resources that still exist. For instance, my program, you know, we can do super good things, but there's also only so much we can do at the same time. So
that's probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how do you measure success in your job where you may not be told you did a great job or that was good? Or
Yeah. So I think that social work is really hard. So for instance, you know, I have something that we do supervision every week with our supervisors, right? And we do group supervision and then we do individual. And one of my actual classmates that I was in school with works for the same company as me. And we had supervision together yesterday. And she had said, I have my first successful discharge coming up this week. She's like, of all of my clients that I've had, I have not had a successful one. And when we say successful, it's like, okay, we started from the beginning. They came in for counseling. This is outpatient that she's doing. So comes in for counseling, has a treatment plan, does a couple treatment plan reviews every couple of months, really like ticks the boxes of what we were working on together. And then we accomplished it, right? We're doing so well. Every time we come to therapy, we've got nothing else to talk about because we're doing it every week, right? So like 6 months down the road, we'll have what we call a successful discharge, because in counseling or therapy or any type of intervention, I don't want to keep you there for 4 years, because if I'm telling you all of these coping skills, you're not going to use them without me reminding you of it every single week. So at a point, that person has to be let go to kind of like fly out of the nest, you know? And she was saying of her in the past year that we've had jobs now outside of school, this is her first successful discharge. So it's hard for us to really measure success when it comes to whether or not it's successful. Because if you're working with a population that's having a hard time getting to counseling or calling for help or working or paying bills because they have to work 3 jobs, right? When is their time to do counseling? When is their time to go see a therapist or anything like that? So for me, I measure success based on my follow-ups with my clients. And I'll make that initial safety plan with them. And let's say they tell me that they have Disney passes, and a lot of people do actually, surprisingly, depending on how expensive they are. But a lot of my adult clients will tell me I want to go to Disney once a week, or I want to go every other week just for myself, to go by myself. Or I want to give myself an affirmation every single day. Okay, well, every week until my case closes, I'm checking on that with you. And so just to see my clients say, I did this. Like, we wrote this down and I did it. And that's like the only way to me that you can measure success, because in social work, there's so many things that are going to go downhill every other day with every client.
With people.
Yeah. In general, life is going to chew you up, spit you out, and tell you to figure it out, you know?
Every day.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yes.
So what are some misconceptions that people have about your job, and how would you clear it up?
So speaking of, we were talking about social media, and I can relate to it because I've done the position. So a lot of times on TikTok lately, I've gotten onto social work TikTok. How I've gotten onto it, I have no idea. But there's this template that people use, and they're like, oh, you're a social worker, so you take people's kids.
Oh.
And I can relate to that because I absolutely worked that position, and I have done that job. And social work is so much more than going out and being the bad guy and making life hell for people, because the whole point of social work is to be that person that is called when the nurse or the doctor don't have anything else to help you with. Like, there's nothing else for me or you to do in this profession. I need the social worker to come do every single thing. So they have like levels of social work, micro, macro, and meso, and they're all different levels: policy level, family level, and then individual. And so the point of us is to be able to say, based off of what's going on in macro, this and this is also going to happen to you. So I think that it's just a lot of misconceptions of we're the bad guy And I know last year when I was here, I had to explain social work as being just an advocate, but we're really that person that I don't want that person to rely on me as a friend. Like there has to be those boundaries, you know, you have to lie those boundaries because people will blur them all the time. And I think sometimes they don't mean to, but it's more of a, I'm going to be that person that supports you. If you don't have that person in your life that's going to support you in this way that you want to be supported, that's going to be me. So I think the misconception is that we come in and when people are in their worst times, and we do, but we also are trying to make those worst times something that they can make out of it. So what can we pinpoint that's the hardest part right now and make something out of that so that the rest can fall in line? So I just think it's funny. I've seen these TikToks that are just popping up everywhere, and it's like, oh, so you take people's kids. Well, no, I did, but it's hard to sometimes see that stuff. So,
Right, because they don't know what it is.
No.
They've just seen it in the movies back in the day where
Yeah.
they came and CPS took their kids.
yeah. And unfortunately, like I know everyone knows the Gabriel Fernandez one on Netflix, and like, yes, while that was horrible, there was so many other pieces that were missed that like the kids should have been taken. You know, like there was so many different things that are going on, and we only see what media portrays unless you're in it. And so I think that I said this to somebody the other day that my start in my career at CPS was probably the most rewarding, but the hardest at the same time because it was horrible. You know, a lot of things I've seen. But it gave me a real backbone to be able to know what really goes on out there.
For sure.
So,
But how do you take care of your own mental and emotional health while you're constantly supporting and offering help to other people?
I think a huge reason that I took the current job that I'm at right now is because it's from home. So I was, living 30 to 40 minutes with Orlando traffic from my past job every single day, not home. I wasn't going to the gym, and I used to go all the time. I wasn't doing yoga, and I teach yoga. Like I wasn't doing anything. So to be able to say, okay, well, I work from home. I've built like a home gym. That's like my baby. My now 2 dogs. I spend a lot of time with them, and I'm just being a little bit more intentional on my boundaries. So this current job is really good about understanding that we can't help others if we don't help ourselves. And my boss is a phenomenal human being. And I lean on her a lot, and my coworkers are also great. So for me, I think it's learning that burnout is real. It's happened to me before, and picking something like every single day that I'm going to do for myself, whether that's alone or with somebody or just my favorite food, whatever it is. I pick like one thing each day, whether that's waking up in the morning and working out or going to bed before 10. So it just depends on each day. Everyone has to
Do
find
something.
their own niche of what works for them.
Yes. And what advice could you give to anybody who wants to get into this field and do what you do, who may be afraid?
I have a couple of people that I have told to go volunteer. There are so many volunteer opportunities. For instance, Chris, right? And I love being able to help people get involved in it because, again, like we've talked about before, there are so many things that happen that you would never know if you're not in this field or you don't at least dip your toes in it in some way, shape, or form. And I think it really helps people who want to be social workers say, okay, this is not the population I want to work with. For instance, I could not work in hospice. I couldn't do it. I would cry every single day, but I can work with kids that have been significantly abused and neglected. Some people can't do that, so for me, I volunteered so much, and that was the biggest thing for me. And that's the reason I can say that, like, I love what I do and I know what I want to do because I've been out there. I think that eventually I'd like to be a professor of social work in some way, shape, or form, or whatever class it is, because a lot of students don't go do it, and they need to. That's a huge deal. I have a couple people right now that have reached out to me because they know I've done social work, and one of my friends just got in the program and texted me the other day, and she was volunteering, at like a very high acute place. So I think volunteering is like the biggest thing, and there's so many things you can do. It's hard to find them, but if you Google social work or mental health, volunteers. There's so many different things you can do. So
Just have to look into it. I think a lot of people are probably afraid when they put in mental health. They think, is it going to make me crazy?
Right. No, I mean, yeah, it's a huge thing. Yeah, you really think about stuff like that. And, it's when you work on the Baker Act unit, you see some things. It's scary. But, there's also that side of, I know I'm helping somebody, and, some of them are going to walk down the hallway and flick you off, and others are going to beg to see you that day. So it just depends on what's going on. I think the population is a huge thing. Like, for someone wanting to get into it, you've got to figure out what population you want to work with.
And then this one's going to be a tough question, but how have you seen in the communities that you work with, maybe the underserved, underprivileged, any equality? How does it affect people and their mental health and them being able to get help or asking for it?
So, I'm not going to get super political just because we could go down a whole route, right? But it's a lot of resources recently have just been really shut down. One that I know of, for instance, is the 988 suicide hotline. So we get a lot of clients directly from them. And they have several different options of what can be selected, what kind of counselor you want to talk to, if you want a male, a female, certain anything, right? And their LGBTQ plus line just got shut down. So it's hard for individuals who are of a minority, right, to even ask for help because they're being shut down before they even try. It's like someone just applying for jobs after job after job, and it's just stupid jobs, right? You just need a job. You can't get one because you just keep getting shut down. So why are you going to keep trying? It's the same thing with mental health. So then your mental health deteriorates in general. You're not going to go outside as much. You're not going to go try and do this as much. Everything just goes down in dumps. So it's like, where does it lie between the fact that everyone needs to be able to ask for help, whether their nationality, culture, sexual orientation, male, female, anything, it doesn't matter. So a lot of things recently are happening. But I'm just hopeful that everyone, with mental health being so big right now, I'm hopeful that people will still reach out. And there's still individuals out there, whether or not option 3 exists on 988, there's still individuals out there that have that training that can help you. They're just not going to be directed to you by pressing one option. So it makes it more hoops to jump through. Mm-hmm. Like if you are, for instance, when you call 911, right? You call 911 for somebody else, but you're in Orange County and you need it in Osceola County. You have to give them the address. They patch you through to a new thing. You have to explain again what's going on, and then you get somebody. So it's just these hoops. It doesn't make it easy for anybody, whether you've got mental health going on or not. So jumping through the hoops is going to be the issue, I think.
Gosh, I wasn't aware that they're taking away services like that, sadly.
Yeah.
So what changes would you personally like to see that could help your job and help the community?
I think that with the way the world's going, I'm hopeful that the new generations that are upcoming, I know Gen Z is a little crazy. Gen Z's got a lot going on. But the end of millennial era is like where I'm at, and then the new beginning of Gen Z is, like early 20s right now. And I think that because mental health has such an eye on it now, that I think despite what's going on in the world, that there will still be people that want to help. There will still be awareness because, for instance, when you were younger, was suicide like a huge thing that was known? Probably not.
Not really.
Yeah. So I think now it's a huge deal, and like we know the signs a little better, I think. I don't want to say research because research is not really in social work, but it is in a way. There's theories based off of what you've gone through in the past and the different types of trauma and how you can relate to those in certain ways and different therapies. So I think that I just want to see everybody kind of be in unison a little bit more. I feel like we were doing really well the past couple years. Everybody was kind of coming together and we're all human at the end of the day. We all have the same makeup in some way, shape, or form, no matter we look like or not. And I think that that's just something we need to remember, is everyone has a different past and different story. And that's coming together is like the biggest thing. So this divide that's going on in the world, in cities, counties, states, countries, all of that is just making things a lot worse. And I'm hoping that this little roller coaster we're on will slow down at some point and kind of bring everybody back together. So that's what I would like to see. When it comes to funding and all of that, I get asked for all the funding in the world for mental health. It's not going to happen. There should be funding in every other profession as well. Every profession needs it. But I think that as long as nothing bigger gets cut in terms of, for instance, like I'm in the public service loan forgiveness program, right? And the student loan things have been a hot topic for years at this point on whether or not those should be forgiven. And I have almost $100,000 in debt to be able to go and make less than $60K, so there's no way to pay anything like that. I'm going to be paying till I die. But because I work in a public funded program, they have these options where if you work for so long, they will help you pay things back. So we need good workers to keep going. And there's always going to be a population to work with, but we need workers to do it. And if these types of programs to even help, not just our clients are getting cut and now our employees are getting cut, you're not going to have nothing. You're going to have nobody asking for help, and you're going to have nobody to help when they do need it. So I'm just hoping that everyone can kind of come back together and realize like what's more important. Are humans important, or is money more important? So
Is the company that you work for, the services that they provide, are those free to the people?
They are free. Okay. Yeah. The only barrier that I really go through is my company specifically serves individuals with Medicaid.
Okay.
So I don't know what that's going to look like in the future. But if you don't have insurance, it's the same thing as like 911. You don't have to have insurance to call them, right? You don't have to have insurance to call 988, anything like that. But what I find hard is individuals who don't have insurance. There's only a handful of 2 or 3 places in the Tri-County area that can see people without insurance. Or if it's self-pay, it's sometimes a sliding scale and you fill out a financial affidavit. But some people have no income. Some people really have no job right now, and they still need help. And I understand that, yes, there's things that have to be paid for to get them, but there's also sometimes where maybe give them one or two discounted or 1 or 2 free to get them going so that they can get on their feet, to go back to work, to get their lives together, and then get their insurance back on or whatever it is, So my specific job does provide it for free, which is super helpful, but I don't think a lot of people know that because I've gotten that question a lot. Like, is this going to cost me?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Because it's expensive
Absolutely
to
not.
get medical care.
Yeah.
Sadly. And could you repeat the lines that people can call if they need help?
Yeah. So 988 is the National Suicide Hotline. You can call, text, video, everything with them. 211 it's called United Way. You give them your zip code and tell them what you need help with, and they'll connect you to those direct services for them.
Okay.
And then obviously 911 if you're in emergency.
Yes.
And then that's the main ones that I work with. So
that's really good information.
Yeah, they're definitely, I can send you information on them so that you have like little informations on them, maybe post them. But those are super big things. And that's really, those are going to be your 2 best bets. Because like I said, 211, you give your zip code and you tell them, I need help with rent, I need help with electricity, I need mental health, I need emergency. They will dispatch you to wherever you need to go. So.
And that's 24 hours?
Yep.
Okay,
yep,
they all
are.
of
them, yep.
911, obviously.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So we're all, trying to work together. I think that all the municipalities and the counties and everything else is trying. There's a lot of things going on in my programs that, 911 and OPD has got different things, or OCSO and OPD have got things going on that are trying to help us, that we can use their resources. So we're all trying to come together, but then there's certain funding and there's crossover that just naturally happens in all companies. So I think it's a slow work in progress.
That's true. Anything with with the state, the county,
Yeah.
the government is
Yeah.
slow. Sadly, and this stuff is like urgent. I don't think it
Yeah.
can wait in some cases.
No, and it can't. And, you know, sometimes the other part is I do a dispatch shift. So I do a 24-hour dispatch shift where I'm answering the call to 211, right? And so you can get a range of, like, I need to call 911 for these people because they didn't, or it's just somebody that's looking for resources, you know? So I've had it all, you know, it every single day is different, and there is no predicting it at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
Some people are just lonely.
yeah, really. I mean, we do get a lot of that. A population that I think I've learned that I might want to work with in the future. Right now, I love just children, right? I love working with youth, but I'm learning through my current job that I think that I didn't want this before, but I think that I like working with 20 to like 25, you know, females, because they've got a lot going on. A lot of them are going to college. They've moved out. They've never had a job on their own. They don't know how to deal with relationships, or they're in a nasty relationship. They don't know how to get out of it. And I used to really struggle working with women with domestic violence relationships because of my past with CPS. But now that I'm seeing it happen so early on in 20-year-olds who might not even have kids and they still can't get out, I think that's another population that I might want to work with at some point. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So you have a servient, large heart, and I'm so grateful that I know you. I have to thank Chris that
Thank
he
you.
introduced me. So really, there's not that many people that I could say are super like involved. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Of
It
course.
gives me goosebumps.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much
So-
for having me. I love talking about my career. I love helping people get into it.
I think it's really knowledgeable and helping people.
Yeah, there's more to talk about every single day. You
I'm
know,
sure there is.
it just goes on, and you learn something new every day too. You know, I'm still learning. I've only had my master's degree for a year, but I've been working in child welfare and social work since 2019. So, but the difference, you know, I've had in volunteering and the different, positions I've had quite a few, unfortunately, but I also love it because I have had so many different options to see and different lenses to see things through too. So
So thank you.
I
Thanks
love
again
it.
for joining us.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll have to catch up with you next time in a year. See what you're
yeah,
doing.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening and joining us. If you haven't already, please share, subscribe, and like our episodes and our podcast. Also, leave a review. It will be so helpful to us, and we would so appreciate it. Also, if you want to join us at any time, we're open to any guests joining us in person and on Zoom. We post and record episodes bi-weekly, so that's twice a month. Also, they're posted on our socials, which is Facebook, Secured Insurance Group, Instagram, Colleen Insurance Lady. This podcast was hosted by myself, Miss Colleen Pacheco, and recorded and produced and edited by Sean Spazzato. Our podcast cover art was designed and created by Norma Pacheco, and our intro and outro music is created by Lounge Bar by Geronic. Goodbye.